Good morning, everyone, and good afternoon on the East Coast for those of you viewing from the East Coast. My name is Curtis Brown. I work for Texas Instruments, and I'm here with my friend Parisa Schulte. Super excited to be here this morning with you, trying to answer some questions for how you can use TI technology to teach virtually. I know we're all in this situation, and I'm just, and I'm sad that we're all in this situation. This is a tough time. I know it's unprecedented, and frankly, it makes a lot of us uncomfortable trying to do this, trying to teach from our homes. And I know many people have students at home as well, and so there's just a lot of things going on. So we're just, we're trying to get things out there for you guys to be able to use and try to be helpful with that. So please, this is intended to be a discussion this morning. Parisa and I have prepared a few things to kind of get the ball rolling, but hopefully we'll be able to get a discussion going among us. If you would, please just post your questions or comments in the chat or in the comments section for the YouTube video, and we'll see those there, and we'll be able to try to respond and get things going. I see we've got a few people joining already. Good morning, Heather. And so, Parisa, I'll let you get started, introduce yourself, and then you can take it away.
Okay. Hi, everybody. Good morning. My name is Parisa Schulte, and I am an education technology consultant for Texas Instruments. I'm a former middle school math teacher and a former National T-Cubed instructor. So I have seen our technology integrated in many different ways, but of course, this is a new environment for everybody. So we are here to try to share some ideas with you, like Curtis said, but please keep those questions coming. So the first thing, I just want to go over here some topics that we're going to address. So resources to get started, creating lessons as PDFs or documents, entering and displaying data. We're going to use them as an example for if you're creating a lesson, using self-check question documents during this time and how that can work. And then, of course, we want any content-related questions that you're willing to throw our way, or any virtual learning related questions you want to send our way. So what we want to make sure everybody knows and is aware of is where to find the resources for distance learning right now. If you follow us on Twitter and you know about this office hours, then most likely you know about the resources that we're providing, but I just want to make sure to review it in case you don't, and know how to share it with your students or colleagues. So on our website, education.ti.com, this first slide or first pop-up on the landing page is COVID-19 support. If you click on download now, that's going to take you to the page where we basically explain all of the software available. So we have software for teachers that we're providing 6-month subscriptions for, and that is our TI-84 Smart View, our TI-34 Smart View Math Prints, and then our TI-Nspire CX Premium Teacher Software, CAS, and Numeric. And then for students, we're providing a 6-month subscription on TI-84 Smart View, the same basically, and then student software for CX or CX CAS student software. So some of the things we're going to demonstrate today, we'll use each of those softwares. So you want to make sure, if you haven't downloaded them yet, or if your students haven't, that you share these resources with them. Another option is we are providing the TI-Nspire iPad app, both CAS and non-CAS, at no cost through the end of April, and then that will stay on their device. So if you have students that have iPads at home, this is a great time to take advantage of that, and then they can also use that to bring up any resources you're going to share with them for distance learning. The last option is a beta version of our TI-84 CE Chromebook app. This is going to be available through August 15th. All you have to do is click to complete this form. It'll go directly to your ETC, and we will try to reply to you within a couple hours to give you the link to find it in the Chrome App Store. Heather sent us a great question this morning already. Thank you, Heather, where she asked, what about a web app? So unfortunately, at this time, we do not have a web app available. However, anything that we're going to share that you could do, one idea that we've kind of come up with and some people are considering is you could do a screen recording with Zoom and share that. So you can still use the software to demonstrate an idea, to explore or investigate a mathematical concept or even science, and then share that resource with your students so they can learn and understand that topic. And then of course, there's one other option that you might want to consider, and that is, is our YouTube channel. So if you go to youtube.com/TI-Calculators, we are putting up new resources here all the time. So if you don't have the time to make a video, but you want to assign one to your students, they don't necessarily have to have any technology to watch these videos and tap into these resources. So let's say you're doing something with visualizing quadratics, that's under this algebra videos. And of course, they can tap in and you can assign that lesson for them to review. So those are just some options that you might consider, and we want to make sure that you're aware of and available, that are available at this time. Okay, so the next thing, or the first topic we're going to go over, is creating lessons in the software. So I'm going to use the TI-Nspire teacher software at this time to kind of just show an idea of how this could be done. So I'm going to bring up I already have an activity in here. And one idea that I wanted to mention to you guys is, let's say that you are using the software to create a lesson for your students where you include some notes pages, or you include some questions, or you include some graphs pages, anything like that. One thing that you can do, of course, is then save this file as a TNS document or a TI-Nspire document. You know, everybody knows you would just go, once you create that document, you would just go File, Save As. But one thing that you might not have considered up until this point is that you can also convert those documents to a PDF. So if your students are working from home, I know I've spoken with a lot of districts that are printing out packets just for students to pick up each week. So what you can do instead, once you create that document where maybe it has some screenshots of some graphs or maybe some data, which we're going to talk about in just a second, you can go to Control Print and then print that to a PDF if you want. And from there, you can decide, okay, I want all pages in there. I want 2 pages per screen. Maybe I want 4 pages per screen. You can leave places for comments and put those comments in there. You can choose
Teresa?
However you want to print those. Yes, Curtis.
Teresa, we did get one question. Sorry, it took me a second to get back to you. There was a question about if the students have school issued tablets or Chromebooks, laptops, etc., and they're not able to download the software. You know, what are the workarounds for that? And
Sure.
Just quickly, I want to address the school issued tablets and Chromebooks. So for the tablets and Chromebooks, that Chromebook solution that you pointed out for completing that form, that goes through their school IT department, and then they're able to push that out to the Chromebooks. Is that correct?
So that's working in some situations, but I've gotten plenty of requests just directly from students. So all your students need to do, like, first off, if your IT can handle it and they can push it out remotely, that's great. That's ideal. They can load it in the admin console, and then when students log into their Chromebook, it'll be there. If that doesn't work for them, students can come complete this form. I've gotten plenty of requests from students. The only thing I will mention is make sure the email address that they provide on this form is one they can receive emails at. So I've had a handful where I try to send them the link to the Chrome app and it gets kicked back because they cannot receive email at that school email address. So make sure you tell them to provide one where they can receive it at. But yeah, they can request it if IT can't push it out.
Okay. And then to address the laptop piece of that question, where maybe students don't necessarily have admin rights to the laptops. Unfortunately, that is a security thing that we really can't control, and I don't think there's a good workaround for that. Maybe going through their IT departments or trying to get some communication with the schools to be able to download some things onto those laptops would be about the only way I could see to kind of work around that. So,
Right.
sorry to interrupt you there on.
No, I'm glad you did.
Be sure we address that. Want to be sure.
Yeah, these are all great questions. Of course, the last option, and it's a great option, is some schools are checking out calculators to their students. So when they come to pick up packets of work, or when they come to pick up whatever technology, some schools are passing them out. I know that doesn't work for everybody because they don't all have access to them right now, or somebody on campus that can, but it is an option if that's a possibility for you. And then there's no issues with, do they have connectivity? Are they sharing devices with multiple kids at home, anything like that? They just have a handheld, like if they're learning in the classroom.
Okay, so okay. I'll let you get back to what you're doing.
Yeah, thank you. So basically, I just wanted to point out, if you're having to pass out packets for students and you want to create your lessons in the software, you can print those to PDFs. You have multiple view options, and you don't have to create it in multiple places. It can just be in that one place where you're creating those slides ready to go. Okay, so Curtis, do you want to go in? Well, the first example that we're going to talk about of creating a lesson and using the software to do that is with some data, right? And so,
will you pull up that slide right quick?
Yeah.
I think that's definitely a thing there. So I don't know, maybe you guys have seen this slide floating around on Twitter or some social media someplace. But I know that this time of year, middle school and for that matter, high school algebra courses where statistics is part of the course, but often we put it off to this time of the year. So right now is about the time your students are starting to talk about describing data. If you can take just a second and look at that screen real quick and see if there's anything that you notice that's wrong about that picture if you haven't seen it before. Oops, I lost it, Parisa. Where'd it go?
Sorry. There we go. Sorry.
Okay. See if there's something wrong about that picture, and then post it in the chat, and we'll talk really quickly about that. I'm waiting to see. So what you might notice, and Parisa, you pointed this out to me yesterday, is that of those three sections there, we kind of have an issue a little bit there. If you'll notice that we have 62% of students who are worried about or people who are worried about their family getting it, 68% of people, the economy getting it, and 48% themselves getting it. And there's an issue with a pie chart that looks that way, right? We have a summation that seems to be a little bit larger than 100%. Yeah, Heather, it's like, so the importance of being able to interpret data is huge, especially in times like these. And so we wanted to kind of show you quickly a couple of things on inputting data and sharing data on both of these two platforms. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen real quick. Here's my share screen. So I'm going to say share screen right quick and share. And so the first platform I'm going to work with is going to be the TI-Nspire. I've got the premium teacher software up here, but if you've got student software, your students could do this and it'll work kind of in the exact same way. You notice I've got the calculator over here on the side. I can hide that if I don't want it there, or I can do some different views. But for now, what I'm going to do is I want a new document. So I'm going to just click the little new document tab over here and grab a new document. And inside of here, I'm going to pull up a lists and spreadsheet page, because what I'm interested in is making sure that I've got a place where I can input and insert some data. So really quickly, what I'm going to do, I'm going to grab some data. And given that this time of our lives is kind of been overwhelmed with some COVID-19 cases data, I thought that maybe this would be a timely place for us to look at this. So I'm thinking maybe let's check this out. So what I've got is I've got some data that I got from Johns Hopkins University, their Center for Science and Engineering. And I pulled this a couple of days ago. It looks like I pulled it on March 31st. And in the first column, I have days of the year from 2020. And the second is the number of cases in the US. And the third column is the differences, or the daily increase for each day. So I'm going to grab each of those three columns, and in this Excel CSV file, I'm going to just do a copy and paste of those three columns. So I'm going to just copy those three columns by right clicking, and I'm going to go over here to my my software, and I'm going to just drop that data in right away. And you can see that's a pretty quick way to get data in that I can start using to model. So I know that this column was days, this column was cases, and this column was increases. And so then we can go really quickly and insert a data and statistics page, and let's actually make a picture out of this. So on the bottom of the screen, I've got click to add variable. So I'm going to put my days on the bottom here. So this is days of the year. So basically days since January 1st, and then the number of cases in the United States. And you guys have probably seen a whole bunch of different variations of that same picture right there, and all kinds of things. But what I think is kind of interesting and what's kind of cool is we can take this and play with that data and do some fitting to it. But I wanted to show you, first of all, how you could get data in on the Inspire. And we'll come back to this in just a minute if we have some time or if there's some questions. I was trying to see if anything came up in the chat, because when I went live, I can't see the chat anymore. So I'm going to switch over to the Smart View, and we'll do the same kind of thing for TI Smart View. So first of all, TI Smart View is the calculator emulator for the TI-84 plus CE. And you can do this where it looks just like the graphing calculator that your students will have, or perhaps you're interested in having the screen off to the side and doing a large screen presentation for your students, and making sure that, you know, when you're doing a video, you could get the keypad here and then have the large screen showing at the same time. So this would be a great way to, if you're doing some steps and you want to show your students how to do a certain thing, this would be a nice, easy way to record a video for that. If you want the key press history, of all the things that you're doing going along, you can turn on the key press history by clicking on that little button up there with the clock in the upper left-hand corner. So that's kind of a quick way to get the key presses and the things that you're using. Now, for Smart View, the way to get that same data in here, I've actually stored that data from the CSV file in as lists in a folder. Oops, I think I have checked always in front. One thing that's kind of nice, I guess I'll demo it right now, is that I can have this view for always in front, where if I'm working on a particular document and maybe I want my students to be able to see what they're working on at a particular time, and they need to be able to type over here. So we'll type over here. to answer a question, they can do things over there in that question, and this calculator won't go away, even though their Word document or whatever they're working on is full screen. So that's kind of a nice, easy way to keep the viewer in front. So I'm going to turn that off because you need to be able to see behind it. So now what I'm going to do, I'm going to click this button over here on the left-hand side of my emulator. You'll see it looks like a bunch of files or maybe some documents. So I'm going to click that there. This is my calculator or my emulator explorer, and I'm going to drop in these files that I've created. I've created a list file for the cases, the number of days, and the deltas. And I'm just going to copy those. I'm going to drag those over into that. So there we go. Had to make it a little bit smaller so I can grab it. All right. So I'm going to grab those and drag those over in there, and you'll see a little dialog box that will pop up. So I've got a list file. Each one of those is named here, and it's picked up on the name that I've got for it. So I'm going to name those cases, days, and deltas. And I'm going to send those over to my calculator. It receives those pretty quickly. Oops, I'm going to minimize that. And once those have gone in there, you can see explored in your calculator. You can see those list files right here ready to go. So now let's go back over to our emulator. And for this demonstration, I'll make this screen really big so you guys can see it really quickly. All right, so a lot of folks may not know that when you're using lists and spreadsheets, when I want to do a stat plot, so I'm going to press second and y equals for my stat plots. I'm going to go in here and I'm going to clear out these two lists because, oh, I can't do it that way. All right. So what I want to do is I'm going to put in, the list. Now, a lot of folks probably just use the list 1 through list 6 to store their data. And they either access it by pressing second and the numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. But I can also name lists to be a little more descriptive. And so that's what I've done here. I've named these cases and days. So I'm going to pull up days as the first one. And then my cases is already there. Apparently, I was playing with this earlier this morning. So I guess it was ready to go for me. I'm going to fix the window really fast and show you guys how that looks. Makes sense that we might start with January 1st as our X minimum, and then I don't know, let's go out to maybe the 100th day of the year, and maybe we'll do those by 10 days. I'm going to do the same thing for my Y minimum. I'm going to set the Y minimum. Since we're up to almost 250,000 people, I'm going to say the Y minimum might be negative 10,000, just so I can see the tick marks on the X axis. And then I'm going to say I want to get up to, I don't know, 250,000 maybe as my Y maximum, and I'll go by, I don't know, let's go by 10,000s. That should give me a decent picture. And now I'm going to press the graph key, and now I've got this nice picture here of that same data that we saw on the Inspire. Just for one more, if you guys will humor me for one more second here, I want to just show what a student might go through now to try to model that data. They might recognize, hopefully, that data is exponential, I guess. It looks relatively exponential. And so maybe you guys have been playing around with transformations of data. So I'm going to look at, let's look at an exponential growth model of, I don't know, let's say it's growing 20% per day. And then because I know that this is exponential and it really doesn't start at like 0, it starts like 21 days out. I'm going to shift this thing over 21 days. If you guys are okay with that, I'm going to shift it to the right 21 days by doing a transformation. So hopefully maybe my kids have talked a little bit about transformations, but if they haven't, that's a way to begin exploring it. And now I'm going to go ahead and drop that graph on there, and 20% is pretty close. It's actually kind of scary that it's 20%. I think I was playing with it a little bit earlier and got it, I think 19.3% seemed to match pretty nicely. But Parisa, that's kind of a quick way that people can play with this. I'm going to show one more thing. Are you okay with that?
Yeah, sure.
All right. And then I'm going to turn this back over to you. So quickly, if I was trying to maybe make a lesson for my students, so I just started typing up a little lesson example here. Maybe, maybe we were talking about modeling a virus, and I wanted to insert some pictures into that data. A couple of ways I can do that. If I have my calculator in either of these two modes, if I've got it in, say, the calculator mode where I'm can just see the entire calculator, or if I've got the large screen mode, either way, I can click on that screen and just drag it over into my Word document and begin to work on it here, and be able to resize it and do the things I want to do with it. The key thing to remember about if you do the click and drag is that doesn't go with a frame around it. So if you want frames around it, you have to use the camera. But then if you do the camera, you can drop them in that same way, drag and drop them out, or you can save them out to files from another place. So just a couple of things there. And last thing that I wanted to show is if, for example, I went really, really fast just a second ago, maybe my students would need me to show the key press history and be able to put that in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click on that key press history button, and I can actually take my key press history and I can drag each one of those all at the same time, or I can highlight this whole section of key presses and copy and paste those into a document. Whatever it might make sense for what you're trying to do, you can do that. So if I paste all those in, it looks a little bit crazy, but you can delete out the arrow keys and things that don't make sense, so that your students can follow along with what you did to create a certain document. So there's a couple of quick things that you can do. Fariza, I'm going to turn it back over to you to let you talk a little bit more.
Okay, great. So I had thought of kind of a similar thing of what Curtis had mentioned, and on Inspire, you could do this on 84 also, but I was thinking that you could provide students with data, so whether it's bi-variable data or categorical data or whatever, and then ask them to give you an appropriate representation or an appropriate model as their response or their question or their answer to you. Obviously, from that COVID-19 pie chart, we see that people have a hard time picking the appropriate model sometimes. Maybe the ability to choose more than one category isn't the best choice for a pie chart, because of course you're going to get above 100%. But giving students the opportunity to say, okay, well, with Inspire, with 84, I can pick, and they respond to you with, I chose this bar chart, or I chose this pie chart for this reason, and this is my, this is how I displayed this data, and being able to justify that to you. So that's just a couple of things that I thought, a couple ways they could use the technology to respond to you. So the other thing that I wanted to go through, and I'm not sure if people have used this before, but I was thinking personally that it might be helpful for students working at home, that if I sent them question documents and saved it in a Google Drive or Dropbox, whatever your way of communicating with students is right now, that I could save it as a self-check question document. And so I'm going to show you what that looks like for the student, and then explain to you how you do that as the teacher. So this is a self-check question document that I have open in the student software. And I'm going to pretend I'm a student and I'm responding to these questions. There's a lot of different options of self-check question documents you can use. You can't use every question type, but I'll show you in the teacher software which ones you can use. So let's say, and I'm just typing in answers, none of these, I don't even know if they're right or wrong. But in the software, what the student can do is they can press Control up, and what it will do is show them if they've done it right or wrong, and if they've left it blank. So they have a way of kind of figuring out, as they're working on their own, if you assign some questions to them, if they're on the right track or not. So if they get something right, then it'll show as a green check mark. So let's see, that should be
that one.
A, right? Okay.
I think it's
so,
A.
Yeah. So notice it'll change that to a green check mark. So personally, I wouldn't choose multiple choice questions as self-check questions that often, because a kid could just go through and guess, right, until they get the right answer. But I think it's really empowering for students when they're working at home, and especially right now when they don't have much, you know, they don't have the ability to always come back and forth to the teacher and ask for help or work with other students, that this is a way for them to understand if they're on the right track or not. Okay. You have the ability to do this on the iPad app also. It just looks a little bit different. I'm going to try to share that real quick on my iPad that I'm logged in as. So give me just a second, and I'm going to give that a little bit more time to load. Let's see if you're able to see it. Okay.
I can see your screen.
Perfect. So this is an example of a question where they're clicking on an image. So this is an image of some angles, and I'm asking students which angles are supplementary to angle 1. So let's say that they only picked angle A and not angle C. This is a multiple select option. So on the iPad app, when you do this, you're actually clicking the tools key, and then you're clicking check answer. So it'll tell them your answer is incorrect. They can try again, or they can show the correct answer. So in this case, I might say, oh, try again. Oops, I noticed that angle C is also supplementary to angle 1. And now I'm going to go check that answer again, and it tells them that they are correct. So they don't have the ability to press Control up on the iPad app to check the answer the same way we did within the software, but they can still check to see if they're on the right track or not. And I think this is a really good way where a lot of districts aren't necessarily allowed to give grades right now, but they still want to provide students the opportunity to do some individual work and some formative assessment and see where they're at, and then be able to come back to the teacher and say, hey, I got 5 and 6 wrong. I still don't know why, but they are able to identify which questions they got wrong.
Oh, that's really great.
So I'm going to stop sharing the iPad app and show you as the teacher how you can create a self-check question document. So I'm back.
I have to do that for the teacher software, right?
Yes. So the only way to have that functionality is within the teacher software, because you can only create questions in the teacher software.
But so I can view it from student software, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
And actually, you can only check your answers in the student software or on a handheld. You can't. You can't check your answer. You can't check your answer from within the teacher software because you're the one creating the question. Okay, so I created a new document, and I'm going to insert a question. I can do that right here under Insert Question, or I can do Quick Poll. Some people that don't have Navigator may have never used this before, but of course it's a really good option for you right now to be able to create these questions for students. So sorry, give me one sec. And Curtis, I can't see the chat window again, so interrupt me if anybody has any questions, okay?
I will definitely do that.
Okay, so I'm going to insert a question. What I want you to understand are the question types you can use self-check with. So any of these multiple choice types you can use self-check with. You cannot use it for any of the open response because it doesn't know how to grade that, right? Even if you put, like, you could do text match and try to get it word for word. I wouldn't necessarily pick that type for a question, for a self-check question. You can pick it for y equals or f of x. For expression, you can use self-check, but let me show you what you're going to have to do. So let's say we say simplify the expression, and we're giving them 2x plus 3y minus 4x.
Hey, Parisa.
Minus 3. Yes.
Just because I was just made aware of this with the In the last 7 days, order of operations has actually, as a Google search, has gone up 350% as compared to the previous days. So why don't you make this like have some parentheses in it or something?
Sure.
You can talk about how the calculator handles that.
Oh no. Is this okay?
Yeah, I like that.
Okay. All right. So let's say that you made this question for your students. All right. So the correct answer is going to end up being, let's see, negative 8x. So the correct answer is going to be negative 6x plus 6y minus 3. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So to enter the correct answer, you don't want to type it here. Otherwise, that's what your students will see. You're going to come over to this document tools on the left, and you're going to type negative 6x, what did I say? Plus
6y.
Plus 6y minus 3. Okay, this is a tricky one because for SelfCheck to work, you have to uncheck this accept equivalence response as correct option. If you don't uncheck that, it doesn't know how to score it. I've done this so many times. And because the calculator, let's say it's a numeric device, doesn't have the ability to check for equivalence between different expressions. For instance, it doesn't know negative 6x minus 3 plus 6y is the same thing. So if you're doing one like this, you have to give them those options, like
or
6y,
6, yeah,
minus 6x minus 3, whatever. So
or
maybe
6y minus x minus 3.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So in this case, for expression questions, you have to be, it's a little tricky. The other option, you can do an XY numerical input. You can do a drop point question, you can do a label, and you can do a point on as SelfCheck. All those will work. Okay. So let's do one other where let's say that I say reflect the coordinate 3, negative 3 across the x-axis. Sorry, I can't see my view because the camera's in the way. What are the new coordinates? Let's say it's something like this, okay? So the correct answer that we're going to have, if we reflect this across the x-axis, is going to be 3, 3, or yeah, 3, 3, right? Okay. Now, let's say I'm ready to save my questions and I want to make them a SelfCheck document. The first thing, all you have to do on any page in the document that has a question, personally, I'm a right-click person, so that's how I do it. I'll show you both ways. You're going to right-click anywhere on that page and choose question properties. And you're going to change this document type to SelfCheck and then hit OK. Now this whole document is SelfCheck. So that's one thing to know. You can't make one question SelfCheck and another not. The whole document that has those questions in it will end up either being SelfCheck or not. Okay. And then once this is saved and you give it to your students to work on, when they open it up in their student software or they open it up on their iPad, then they can check those answers as they go.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
So Parisa, I think we, do you have some more things, or are we kind of get to the place where we want?
I think we're getting to the end, right? Where we wanted to just open up to ask people about ongoing support and how we can provide resources for them. So basically, go ahead, Curtis.
Oh, yeah. So this is one of the things that we really wanted to do in this office hours. We're looking to find ways that we can support you. So Parisa's come up with a list here of some questions or some discussion things that we want to hear back from you. And so if you can put your comments in the chat or in the comment section. If you're doing this live, we want to chat about those things. If you're not doing this live, if you're watching this as a recording, still continue to comment there, because we're going to watch those comments and hopefully be able to kind of respond and do this as a data collection so we can better serve you. So if there are some things that you are looking for, whether it's videos or printed material, maybe it's how we can do stuff remotely for you, anything like that, please let us know, and let's start that conversation right now. I know if I was kind of in the situation of having to teach from home, I think that you know, having some kind of video resource that I could quickly send to students might be helpful, but that's just my own personal thought process. I don't know what might best serve you in your situations. So we're really interested in trying to help you make it through this tough time. So.
And Curtis, that reminded me of one other thing while people are posting their questions is, I'm not sure if everybody knows, you know, we have activities that are free on our website that are aligned to content, aligned to standards, but whether you're a Common Core state or Common Core aligned or similar, whatever you call it, or you're in Texas and you have TEKS, just so you know, between 6th grade and Algebra 2, we have alignment of 82 to 92% of standards for every single grade level. So if you're scrambling to find content of what do I do digitally right now, we have pretty much almost the entire curriculum ready to go for you to provide resources, right? And those are aligned to standards. So if you know, I'm still teaching stats, how can I get some data or get some lists that are already ready to go, or get some activities ready to go? Just as a reminder, they are available on our website.
Parisa, I don't know if you probably can't see the chat. So we just got a question from Heather. She says she's creating choice boards for each grade level. The ones that she's working on now are no tech or low tech, but she'd like to create some that would have technology as well. And so she's looking for some ideas. Do you have maybe an idea that could go with that? I think what you were just talking about could maybe weigh into that. If you had, say, the lesson document ready to go for download, and your students could choose, hey, here's this video and lesson. I know we just finished posting, actually, I guess it was today, Allison, Allison, who's hosting this Zoom chat, just posted on our YouTube earlier today. I think there's some geometry, transformational geometry lessons already there in our YouTube channel that have that have both a PDF and the lesson itself kind of all together in one place. So you can click on that YouTube and get the link to the PDF and then watch that. So maybe that's a place, Heather, that you can go to. Parisa, can you show really quick our YouTube channel? So if you do YouTube / TI calculators. In here, there's a whole bunch of videos that you can link your students to. There's some algebra videos, there's some geometry videos. So that might be a good place to go and check out. Parisa, do you have another idea about that choice?
Oops, I'm sorry, I was muted. Yeah, sorry. So they're broken up by playlists, which I really like, but I think that's a really great opportunity for those tech ones is either assign the students an activity that they download from the website. You could give them the link directly, right? So let's say that you are, Heather, I don't know what grade you teach, so I apologize, but let's say that you're teaching geometry and you want them to explore something with similar figures. One thing to know is every one of our activities come with a student handout and a teacher handout or teacher notes. So you could have the students download that or look at that PDF or that student document to go through and work through the activity with their software open to explore that concept. Or if you realize, okay, there's a YouTube video that addresses exactly what I'm talking about, like finding x-intercepts right here. Maybe put that on their choice board as an option. I think those are all really great examples. Another thing you might want to do during this time, since a lot of schools aren't allowing teachers to deliver new content, this is a really great time to introduce them to TI codes. So they can practice going through any of our TI codes activities. So under activities in TI codes, you could assign them, let's say that they go to TI 84, they can do 10 minutes.
I don't know if you can see the chat, but Heather is at the service center in Lubbock.
Okay, great.
Grades 6 through 12. And this could be a really good opportunity. She asked earlier to, if you say, if maybe she posted the YouTube video and then poses a question to the students, I think that would be a great way to get the students, involved using the choice board. Those transformational geometry ones would be great for your, both your middle school folks who are just kind of getting the idea of reflections, translations, dilations. And it would probably be good review for those students who are maybe in 10th grade grabbing that geometry set of videos as well. So you could definitely post the video and then ask them, say, a question or have a pre-made question or sort of assessment type idea that they do after having investigated those. So I think, that would be great. Sorry, I didn't want to interrupt there, but.
No, I'm glad you did. And I know Lubbock uses Inspire, so that's something they're used to. But let's say that you're an 84 district. There's nothing wrong with assigning a video for a student to watch that's an Inspire district, because they're still going to see the technology helping to explain that concept, right?
Right.
So don't hesitate from assigning them on a different platform than what they're used to, because they're just watching that exploration happen on the screen. So the last thing I was just going to bring up was TI codes, and you can do this without Innovator, without Rover. We have 10 minutes of code activities just on the handheld that they could, of course, do in the software as well. The only one, and correct me if I'm wrong, Curtis, but the only one it wouldn't work on is the Chrome app. Is that right? Because we don't have program editor in there.
I don't think the program editor is live in that.
Okay, so, but they could do it on the SmartView software or the student software.
Absolutely.
And these are, I don't know if you guys have seen them before, but they're really easy to click through, or you can download them as a PDF. So in the PDF, they'll show them something like, this is the first skill builder. So it'll show them something like how to create the program, the steps to go through, and they're really short and easy. But it'll start introducing them to coding where you may not have had the opportunity to do that in the classroom during this time because of testing or anything like that. So that's a nice choice and a nice option to put on those choice boards as well.
Yeah, that's a great resource to get students involved in something maybe that they wouldn't have had time to do elsewhere, but because we've got this time slot now where we're trying to do things remotely and it's just a little bit different. Having some time to do a little coding is definitely something exciting. If you're exploring something new, maybe you could do some coding around that. I think that'd be awesome. So great. Well, we're really excited that we had a chance to sit and talk with you guys this morning. Please continue to post questions or comments or thoughts of how we can support you remotely. If there's anything that we can do, please let us know, and we'd love to continue this conversation. I guess for now, though, we'll wrap this up, and unless there are any other questions coming in, Parisa, I really appreciate you sharing your expertise, and I enjoyed presenting with you today. And so I'll go ahead and wrap us up, and we'll sign off. So thank you very much.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah, and have a great rest of your afternoon.
Thank you.